The rain was heavy that evening, falling across the dark streets of the human colony. Daniel walked with slow steps, his coat wet and his mind tired. He had not planned to stop at the old building with the flickering sign, but something pulled him there. The sign read in broken lights, "Alien Child Shelter." Inside, the smell was cold and strange. The walls were gray, the lights dim. Daniel felt a chill as the door shut behind him. A woman at the counter looked up and gave him a puzzled stare. "Few humans ever came here," she said softly. "We don't get visitors. Are you lost?" Daniel shook his head. He said, "I just wanted to look." He did not know why he said it. Something deep inside told him he should be here. The woman sighed. She waved her hand. "Go on then. But don't touch anything. Some of them are dangerous." Daniel walked down a long hall. On each side, glass walls showed small rooms. Inside were alien children. Some had strange colored skin. Some had extra limbs. Some looked almost human. Each one sat alone, staring at the floor. The place was silent, except for the hum of old machines. Daniel felt his chest tighten. He thought, so many children, all abandoned, all forgotten. Then he saw her. In the corner of a small room sat a girl. She was thinner than the others, her skin pale with faint silver lines running across her arms. Her hair was long, dark, almost covering her face, but her eyes, when she lifted them, were the saddest eyes he had ever seen. Eyes full of sorrow, older than a child should ever carry. Daniel stopped. He could not move. He felt like the girl was looking into his soul. There was no anger in her eyes, only quiet pain. A voice came from behind him. "Don't look at that one too long. She'll break your heart." Daniel turned. The shelter worker stood with folded arms. "That one has been here the longest. Nobody wants her. She doesn't speak. She doesn't smile. Some think she's broken. Some think she's cursed." Daniel looked back at the girl. She did not move. She only lowered her head again. Her small hands gripped her knees, as if holding herself together. "Why is she here?" Daniel asked quietly. The worker shrugged. "Found on a refugee ship, only survivor. Her world was destroyed in some war. Nobody even knows what race she really is. Records lost. She's been like this since the day she arrived, silent and empty." Daniel felt a strange pull in his chest. The other children had moved. Some had cried. Some had tried to get attention. But this girl, she only sat still, waiting, as if she had already given up. The worker's voice grew sharp. "Best leave her be." Many tried to help, all failed. "Don't waste your time, mister." But Daniel could not look away. Something about her told him this was not the end of her story. He remembered his own childhood, the loneliness he once carried. And he thought, maybe she is not broken. Maybe she's only waiting for someone who will not leave her. He leaned closer to the glass, his hand pressed lightly against it. The girl lifted her eyes again. For 1 second, just one, Daniel thought he saw a spark behind the sadness, like a faint light buried deep inside. His breath caught. He whispered, "You're not alone." The worker frowned. "What did you say?" Daniel straightened. "Nothing, just thinking." But inside his mind was racing. As he left the hallway, he looked back one more time. The girl was still watching him. Her eyes followed him until he turned the corner. He felt the weight of that stare, heavy, haunting, as if she had chosen him already. When Daniel reached the counter again, the woman asked, "Did you see something you liked?" She almost laughed, since nobody ever liked what they saw here. Daniel's lips were dry. His heart was pounding. "Yes," he said. "I did." The woman raised an eyebrow. "Don't tell me it's her. The sad one in the last room. She's trouble. You'll regret it." Daniel's answer was calm but firm. "I don't think so." The woman stared at him for a long moment, then shook her head. "You don't know what you're doing. Mister, she's not like the others. She carries something dark with her, something you can't fix." But Daniel only looked back at the rain outside. He felt the storm was nothing compared to the storm in that girl's eyes, and for the first time in many years, he felt a purpose pulling at him. He whispered under his breath, I will come back for her. And somewhere deep in the shelter, the sad alien girl sat in silence, but for the first time, her fingers loosened from her knees, as if she had heard his promise. The next morning, Daniel could not shake the image of the alien girl from his mind. Her eyes followed him in his dreams, and when he woke, the memory of her sadness was still there. He tried to drink his coffee, but it tasted bitter. He tried to read the news, but the words felt empty. At last he sighed and whispered, "I can't leave her there." Shelter was quieter that day. The same woman at the counter looked surprised to see him again. "Back already?" she asked. "I told you, don't get stuck on her. You'll only waste your time." Daniel's answer was steady. "I want to adopt her." The woman almost dropped her tablet. "Her? You must be joking. Do you know how many people tried and failed?" Families gave her back within weeks. Some said she never spoke. Others said she broke things without touching them. "She's not normal, mister. She's something else." Daniel shook his head. "I don't care. She needs someone. And I think she needs me." The woman's lips pressed tight. She pulled out the forms. "Sign them if you must, but don't blame me when she ruins your life." The paperwork was long. Each page carried warnings in bold letters. Special case, no responsibility, high risk. But Daniel signed every line without hesitation. His hands did not shake. When it was done, the worker called the guards. Two large men in uniform brought the girl out. Her thin legs moved slowly, her head down. She looked even smaller outside the glass room. Her eyes did not rise to meet his. The woman said, "She doesn't even answer to her name. We call her Lyra, but she never speaks it." Daniel knelt down. He spoke gently, "Lyra." For a moment, the girl's eyes lifted, just for a heartbeat. Then they fell again. But Daniel noticed something, a flicker of recognition, a spark that the others had missed. He smiled. "It's all right. You'll come with me now." The guards released her. The girl stood beside him like a shadow, silent, unmoving. The woman at the counter sighed. "Don't say I didn't warn you. Mister, you'll regret this. Mark my words." Daniel guided Lyra outside. The rain had stopped, but the sky was still heavy with clouds. He held an umbrella, but she did not step under it. Water fell across her thin shoulders. Daniel gently moved the umbrella to cover her. She looked at him for the first time, not with trust, but with confusion. They reached his small apartment. It was warm, with simple furniture, a couch, a small table, and shelves full of old books. Daniel showed her the rooms, but she did not move. She only sat on the floor near the corner, hugging her knees. Hours passed. Daniel cooked a simple meal, placing a plate near her. She did not touch it. She stared at the wall. Daniel did not force her. He only ate his meal and said softly, "Whenever you're ready." Night came. Daniel gave her a blanket. She pulled it around her shoulders but did not lie on the bed. She sat against the wall until her eyes closed, her breathing soft but uneasy, as if every dream carried fear. At midnight, Daniel awoke to strange sounds. The lights flickered. The air grew colder. He stepped out of his room and saw her. Lyra sat with her eyes half open. A faint glow pulsed across her silver scars. The blanket floated slightly above the floor. Though she did not touch it, Daniel froze. The stories were true. She had power, power she did not understand, power she could not control. For a moment he thought of fear, but then he looked closer. He saw her small hands shaking, her lips trembling. She was not dangerous. She was terrified. Daniel stepped slowly toward her, his voice calm. "It's all right. You're safe here. No one will hurt you." The glow faded. The blanket fell. Lyra gasped and hid her face. Daniel knelt down. He placed a hand near her but did not touch. "I'm not afraid of you," he whispered. "You don't have to be afraid of me." Lyra shivered but made no sound. Her silence was heavy. But Daniel felt it was not empty. It was full of words she could not say. The next day, neighbors whispered. One man laughed at him. "You adopted that thing? You must be mad. Should destroy your home. Just wait." Another woman shook her head. Poor man, wasting his life on a monster child. Daniel ignored them. He walked with Lyra by his side. She followed him quietly, her steps light. People stared, some with fear, some with disgust. Nobody offered kindness. But Daniel felt no shame. He looked down at her and said softly, "They don't know you. They don't see what I see." For a moment, he thought her lips moved, like she wanted to say something. But no words came. She lowered her head again that night, as Daniel closed the curtains. He looked outside and saw a small drone floating far away. Its red light blinked, watching, recording. Daniel's chest grew tight. He knew the whispers were true. Others were interested in her, not just neighbors. People who wanted her for reasons far darker. He turned away, his voice firm though she could not hear his thoughts. "I don't care who comes. I will protect you." And in the corner of the room, Lyra sat again with her knees pulled close. But this time, when she closed her eyes, the blanket did not float. The glow did not return. Instead, one word escaped her lips in a whisper, almost too soft to hear: home. The days passed slowly in Daniel's small home. Lyra said nothing. She moved like a shadow, quiet and careful. She sat in corners, sometimes staring at the walls for hours. Daniel never pushed her. He only gave her food, warmth, and a place to rest. At first, she refused everything. The plates he set on the table stayed untouched. The books he left by her side remained closed. Even the blanket he gave her felt heavy on her shoulders. Yet Daniel was patient. He remembered the sadness in her eyes at the shelter, and he believed that one day she would let the silence break. One night, Daniel sat reading an old book by the fire. Lyra sat across the room, knees pulled to her chest. Her head tilted slightly as she watched the flames. The light reflected against her scars, making them shimmer faintly like silver veins. Daniel noticed her eyes were not empty. They were searching, studying, almost as if she wanted to understand what home truly meant. He spoke softly. "The fire is warm, isn't it?" She gave no reply, but her eyes flickered toward the flames again. Daniel closed his book. "When I was young, I was alone too. No family, no place to go. I used to sit by fire like this, pretending someone cared." Lyra shifted, her shoulders tense. He could tell she was listening. For many days after, Daniel spoke to her while she sat in silence. He told her small stories about the city, about the rain, about books. He never asked her to answer. He only wanted her to hear the sound of a voice without cruelty. Then, one stormy evening, it happened. The rain beat hard against the windows. Lightning flashed across the sky. The thunder shook the walls. Lyra sat curled near the corner, trembling. Her hands covered her ears. Her scars began to glow faintly. Objects on the table rattled. The air itself felt alive. Daniel rushed to her side. "It's all right. You're safe here." His voice was calm but firm. "No one will hurt you, not while I'm here." Lyra's eyes were wide. She looked at him with fear. The glow across her arms pulsed brighter. The blanket lifted again. Chairs scraped the floor. Daniel placed a hand on the floor near her, not touching, only close. "Breathe, little one. Just breathe. You don't have to be afraid." Her lips parted. For the first time, a sound came out. It was soft, almost broken, but it was a word: home. The glow flickered, then faded. The blanket dropped. The rattling stopped. Daniel's eyes widened. He whispered, "You spoke." Lyra's voice was weak, trembling. But she whispered again, "Home." And then she lowered her head, tears rolling down her cheeks. Daniel felt his chest tighten. He wanted to reach out and hold her, but he only said gently, "Yes, this is your home, always." From that night, something changed. Lyra still stayed silent most of the time. But her eyes no longer carried only emptiness. They carried questions, sometimes even a faint spark of trust. Daniel noticed her watching him closely when he cooked, when he read, when he cleaned the small room. One morning, he found her sitting at the table where he had left a book. Her fingers touched the cover carefully. She looked up at him, unsure. Daniel smiled. Would you like me to read to you?" She did not answer, but she did not push the book away either. So he read, his voice steady, the words simple. She listened without moving, but her hands stopped trembling. Days later, when Daniel left a slice of bread on the table, he noticed her take it when she thought he wasn't looking. For the first time she ate, small steps, but each one mattered. Yet outside, the world was not so kind. Neighbors gossiped louder now. Some said Daniel had lost his mind. Others warned him, "She will bring trouble to your door. You don't know what she really is." One night, as Daniel walked Lyra through the marketplace, he felt the weight of eyes on them. Not just neighbors this time. Shadows lingered longer than normal. A man stood too still near the stalls. A figure turned away quickly when Daniel looked back. He tightened his grip on the bag of food. His eyes narrowed, he thought. They're watching her. That evening, Daniel locked the doors. He glanced through the curtains and saw a light in the distance. A drone again, hovering far above the roofs. He turned back to Lyra, who sat quietly by the fire. The glow of the flames painted her face. For a moment, she looked almost human, fragile, innocent. Daniel whispered to himself, "They won't take her, not while I live." As if hearing him, Lyra's eyes lifted, her lips moved slightly. She whispered again, "Home." But this time, the word carried something new, not just fear, not just need hope. And Daniel knew that hope was the most dangerous thing of all, because others would stop at nothing to steal it from her. The days grew calmer in Daniel's home. Lyra spoke. No more than that single word, but her silence was different now. It was not the silence of emptiness, but of watching, learning, and waiting. She followed Daniel's movements with quiet eyes. She ate small meals, and sometimes she sat by the fire with him. Daniel felt progress, fragile but real. Yet he also felt the world outside growing heavier. The neighbors whispered too loudly. Strangers lingered too long in the streets, and always, in the distance, the faint red blink of a drone. One evening, as Daniel locked his door, he noticed a figure across the street. A man in a dark coat, standing too still, his face hidden by shadow. Daniel's instincts warned him. He pulled the curtain closed, his chest tightened. They are not just watching anymore. That night, Lyra woke from a nightmare, her small body shaking, her scars glowing faintly. Daniel knelt beside her, whispering calm words. The glow dimmed, but Lyra's eyes were wide with fear. She pointed toward the window, her lips trembling but silent. Daniel turned quickly. For a second, he thought he saw movement outside, a shadow slipping away into the night. The next day, he kept her close. They walked through the crowded marketplace. Daniel bought food. Lyra walked a few steps behind him. People stared as always, but this time Daniel noticed something else. A man at a stall pretending to sell fruit, but his eyes followed Lyra's every move. A woman in a cloak whispered into a small device hidden in her sleeve. Daniel's jaw clenched. He placed his hand gently on Lyra's shoulder, guiding her back home. His thoughts raced. They're circling her like hunters. That evening, while Lyra sat by the fire, Daniel searched his shelves, pulling out an old box. Inside lay a small weapon, a blaster he had not touched in years. He checked it quietly, loading the cell with steady hands. Lyra watched him, her eyes filled with unspoken questions. He looked back at her and forced a calm smile. Just being careful. The following night, danger came closer. Daniel awoke to the faintest sound, metal scraping, a door being tested. He rose silently, his blaster in hand, moving to the hallway. He heard whispers outside. The door rattled once, then stopped. Footsteps faded into the darkness. Daniel stayed awake until dawn, his heart heavy with the truth. Someone wanted her badly, and soon they would come harder. Lyra noticed his exhaustion. She sat closer to him that morning, her small hand tugged gently at his sleeve. Daniel looked down, surprised. Her lips moved, but only one word came. "Safe," she whispered. Daniel's chest tightened. He placed a hand near hers, not touching, but close. Yes, you are safe here, I promise. But even as he said it, his eyes drifted to the window where shadows moved, too quickly at the edge of sight. The following day, the attack came. Daniel and Lyra were eating a quiet meal when the glass of the window shattered. A drone burst through, spraying sparks. Daniel reacted fast, pulling Lyra down. His blaster fired. The machine exploded against the wall. Smoke filled the room through the broken window. Daniel saw figures in the distance, dark shapes moving with purpose. They were not neighbors, not curious onlookers. These were hunters. Lyra's scars lit up with bright light. Her fear triggered something deep inside her. The table shook. The shelves rattled. The fire in the hearth flared wildly. Daniel grabbed her shoulders. Lyra, listen to me. Stay calm. Focus on me. Her breathing was heavy. Her power surged. The air hummed as though the house itself might tear apart. Daniel's voice grew louder, firm but kind. I'm here. They can't take you, not while I stand. Lyra's eyes locked onto his for a moment. The glow raged brighter, then slowly dimmed. The house stopped shaking. The fire returned to normal. Daniel pulled her close, shielding her as another shadow moved outside. He raised his blaster, firing through the window. A cry rang out. The figure dropped. The others retreated. But Daniel knew this was not over. They had tested his defenses. Next time they would come stronger. He held Lyra tightly. Her small body trembled against him. She whispered again, "Home." Her voice shook, but the word carried a desperate strength. Daniel's eyes hardened. He whispered back, "Yes, but to keep it. We'll have to fight." That night, as Lyra slept uneasily, Daniel sat awake with the blaster on his lap, his eyes scanning the shadows outside. The drones were gone, but he knew eyes were still on them. Somewhere beyond the city, powerful people had learned that the saddest alien girl was not broken. She was dangerous, she was valuable, and they would never stop hunting her. The house was no longer the same after the attack. Shattered glass was replaced with metal plates, locks were doubled, curtains stayed closed. Daniel's blaster never left his side. Lyra noticed everything. She saw the way he moved with alert eyes, the way he checked windows before sleeping, the way he sat awake at night when she dreamed. Yet in the middle of fear, something else began to grow. Lyra started to follow Daniel more closely. She no longer stayed in corners all day. Instead, she would sit at the table when he ate. She did not always eat herself, but she stayed near. Watching him, studying his face, Daniel spoke to her often, his voice calm and steady. "This bread is warm, try it. The rain is loud tonight, but inside it is safe. When I was a boy, I had nothing, but I survived." He did not know how much she understood, but he saw the way her eyes changed, the emptiness slowly filled with something else, curiosity. One morning, as Daniel prepared breakfast, he heard a soft sound. He turned and saw Lyra at the sink. She held a cup with both hands, trying to fill it with water. Her movements were awkward, but she was trying. Daniel smiled gently. "That's good. You don't have to wait for me." Lyra looked at him, then lowered her head, whispering almost silently, "Thank you." Daniel froze. His chest felt heavy with surprise. Her second word, clear and fragile. He smiled warmly. "You're welcome." After that, Lyra tried more. She copied small things, how he placed books back on shelves, how he folded blankets, how he wiped the table after meals. Her steps were still quiet, but her silence no longer felt empty. It felt like she was learning to belong at night. When storms shook the windows, she would move closer to him without speaking. Daniel would sit by the fire and read aloud. Lyra leaned against the chair, her eyes half closed. She seemed calmer with his voice filling the air. But with each day of peace, Daniel's worry grew stronger. The shadows outside had not vanished. He noticed more drones, sometimes high in the sky, sometimes hiding near the alleys. Neighbors grew silent when he walked past, as if they knew things he didn't. One evening, Daniel sat polishing his blaster. Lyra sat across from him, drawing shapes with her finger on the wooden floor, circles, and lines that glowed faintly for a second before fading. Daniel watched quietly. He realized she was not only learning from him, she was remembering something. Her powers, her past. He asked gently, "Lyra, who taught you that?" Her eyes lifted. Frightened, she shook her head and whispered, "Bad men." Then she covered her face, trembling. Daniel's heart broke. He knelt beside her. "You don't have to fear them anymore. They can't reach you here." But he knew his words were half a lie. They were reaching. They would not stop. The next day, Daniel decided to show her something different. He took her to the rooftop at sunset. The sky glowed orange and gold. For a moment, Lyra's eyes widened. She stepped forward, looking at the endless sky. Her scars glimmered faintly. But softly this time, not with fear, but wonder. Daniel said quietly, "Beautiful, isn't it?" She turned her head, her lips moved, and she whispered, "Yes." That one word was enough to make Daniel feel he had done something right. From then on, Lyra tried to smile, not often, not fully, but Daniel saw it, a faint curve at her lips when she held a warm cup, when she touched a soft blanket, when she looked at the fire. It was fragile, like glass, but it was real. Their bond grew stronger, a father and a daughter, not by blood, but by choice. But peace never lasts one night. Daniel heard voices outside his home, low and urgent. He peeked through the curtain and saw 3 men in dark coats. One held a device scanning the walls. Another spoke into a cum. Their eyes were sharp, their movements trained. Daniel whispered, "They've come closer." He turned to see Lyra standing behind him, her eyes wide, glowing faintly. She had felt it too. He put his hand on her shoulder. "Don't be afraid, I'll protect you." But Lyra shook her head, whispering a new word, strong and heavy with meaning, "Fight." Daniel's eyes widened. He realized she was no longer only a child waiting to be saved. She was changing. She was ready to stand beside him. Outside, the shadows grew thicker. The hunt was beginning. The city slept under heavy clouds, but Daniel did not. He sat by the window with his blaster resting across his lap. His eyes scanned the dark streets. Shadows moved, but he could know longer tell if they were real men or his tired mind. Lyra lay on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, but her eyes were not closed. She was awake, watching him. For days the watchers had circled closer. Drones hovered in the sky. Men in coats stood at corners. Sometimes Daniel heard faint clicks on his cum, attempts to break into his signals. He knew it was only a matter of time. That night, it came. A sharp sound cracked through the silence glass, breaking at the back of the house. Daniel jumped to his feet, blaster raised. Lyra sat up, her scars already glowing. The door burst open. 3 masked men rushed inside. Their weapons gleamed under the faint light. Daniel fired without hesitation. 1 man dropped, the others scattered. Lyra screamed, and the scream carried power. The walls shook, the lights shattered. The air pulsed with energy. The men froze, stunned by the wave of force. Daniel fired again. The 2nd man fell. The 3rd tried to run, but Lyra's glow flared. The door slammed shut by itself. Trapping him, Daniel walked forward, his blaster steady. The man's eyes widened in terror before Daniel's shot silenced him. Smoke filled the room. Lyra trembled. Her scars burned bright. Daniel grabbed her shoulders. "Breathe, Lyra. It's over. You're safe." Slowly, her glow dimmed. Her breathing slowed. She looked at him with wide eyes, as if afraid of herself. Daniel brushed her hair back gently. "You're not a monster. You saved us." But deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning. The following day, Daniel packed. He filled a bag with food, water, credits, and his blaster cells. He could not stay in the city. They would come. Again, stronger, Lyra watched him silently. Then she walked to the table and placed her small hand on the bag, whispering, "Go?" Daniel nodded. "Yes, we have to go. It's not safe here anymore." By nightfall they left. The city streets were quiet, but Daniel's instincts screamed of eyes watching. He kept Lyra close as they moved through alleys, avoiding bright lights. Every drone overhead made his chest tighten. At the starport, The air was thick with smoke and voices. Ships came and went. Traders shouted. Guards scanned papers. Daniel pulled a hood over Lyra's head, guiding her carefully through the crowd. But even in disguise, she drew attention. A cloaked figure brushed too close. A metallic glimmer shone under the sleeve of a weapon. Daniel shoved Lyra aside and fired. The blast hit the figure in the chest. Chaos exploded around them. People screamed. Guards rushed. Daniel grabbed Lyra's hand, pulling her through the mess. They ran past cargo crates, past shouting workers. Blaster fire ran behind them. Lyra's scars glowed again, a wave of energy pulsed outward, knocking over barrels and sending pursuers crashing to the ground. Daniel pulled her into a maintenance tunnel. The noise of the starport muffled behind steel doors. His chest heaved, sweat dripping. Lyra clutched his coat tightly. Her whisper echoed in the dark. "Fight," Daniel nodded. "Yes, but we need to be smarter." They moved through the tunnels until they reached the far edge of the port. There, Daniel saw an old freighter, rusted but functional. A lone pilot was preparing for launch. Daniel approached quickly. "I need passage now." The pilot eyed him suspiciously. "With a child?" "Trouble follows people like you." Daniel shoved credits into his hand. "Double this if you take us now." The pilot hesitated, then nodded. "Fine, but if the law comes knocking, you're on your own." Daniel guided Lyra aboard. The freighter rumbled as the engines came alive. Outside, he heard shouts and saw shadows rushing toward the dock. Blasters fired, sparks flew. The ship lifted just in time, rising into the stormy sky. Through the small window, Daniel watched the city grow smaller, lights flickering like dying stars. He whispered, "We're not safe yet." Lyra sat beside him, her eyes glowing faintly. Her small voice broke the silence. "Why?" "Me?" Daniel turned to her. His face softened. "Because you're alive. Because you matter. And because I chose you." Lyra lowered her head. Her lips curved slightly, almost a smile. But the moment was cut short. The freighter shuddered violently. Daniel looked out the window and froze. Two black ships had risen from the clouds. Sleek and armed, their engines roared as they locked onto the freighter. The hunt was not over. It had only just begun. The freighter shook as the black ships closed in. Warning lights flashed red across the cabin. The pilot cursed, pulling the controls hard. "They're locking weapons. Who are you people?" Daniel held his blaster tight, his eyes cold. "Just fly. I'll handle the rest." Lyra sat beside him, trembling. Her scars glowed faintly, the energy inside her answering the danger. She looked at Daniel with fear, but also with something stronger, trust. The first blast struck. The freighter jolted. Metal screamed. Daniel steadied Lyra. "Hold on," the pilot shouted. "We can't outrun them. They'll tear us apart." Daniel's jaw tightened. He turned to Lyra. "You don't have to be afraid. You're stronger than they know, stronger than even you believe." Lyra's eyes widened. Her lips trembled. "I hurt people." Daniel shook his head firmly. "No, you protect, you save. That's what you are. And I'm here with you." The second blast hit. Sparks rained across the cockpit. Alarms screamed. The pilot shouted again. "We're finished, but..." Lyra stood, her small hands glowing. The air hummed with strange power. Her scars lit like silver fire. Daniel watched as her fear turned into something else, courage. She stepped to the center of the cabin, lifted her hands, and whispered, "Stop." Outside the window, the black ships fired, but the blasts slowed in the air, frozen, hanging like glowing suns. Then they twisted, turning back toward their own ships. The hunters had no time to react before their own weapons destroyed them. Fire lit the sky, metal rained down. The freighter shook again as shockwaves passed. But it held. Silence filled the cabin. The pilot gaped, eyes wide with terror. "What? What is she?" Daniel answered calmly, his voice steady. "She's my daughter." Lyra collapsed, her body weak. Daniel caught her before she fell. He held her close, whispering, "You did it. You saved us." Her small voice whispered back, broken but sure, "Home." The pilot said nothing more. He guided the freighter into deep space, away from the city, away from the hunters. Days passed. Daniel cared for Lyra as she slept. He kept her warm, fed her, and told her stories she half heard in dreams. When she finally woke, her eyes were softer. The weight inside them had lessened, but danger was not gone. News spread quickly. Whispers across the galaxy told of a human man and an alien child with impossible power. Governments argued in secret. Syndicates prepared weapons. Armies sharpened their claws. Everyone wanted the girl. Daniel knew they could not hide forever. But he also knew one truth. The girl was no longer hopeless, no longer silent. She had begun to live again. One evening, as the freighter drifted in the quiet of space, Daniel sat with Lyra by a small viewport. Stars stretched endlessly, glowing against the black. Lyra leaned against him, her voice soft but clearer than ever before. "Why? Do you protect me?" Daniel looked down at her, his voice calm. "Because you're worth protecting. You're not a weapon, you're not a curse, you're a child. And you're mine now." Lyra's eyes glimmered with tears. She whispered, "Father." Daniel's chest tightened. He placed his arm around her shoulders. "Yes," he said. "Father." The freighter pilot watched quietly. He muttered under his breath, "The galaxy won't like this. You'll both be hunted forever." Daniel looked out at the stars, his eyes hard. "Then let them come. Humanity has faced worse. They'll learn that we don't abandon our own." For a moment, silence filled the cabin. Only the hum of the engines echoed. Lyra sat straighter, her scars no longer glowing with fear but with calm. Her eyes carried something new, hope, but deep in the black, beyond the reach of weak freighters and broken men, larger ships stirred. Armies whispered her name. They would not forget. They would not stop. Yet the story had already changed. No longer was she the saddest alien girl in the shelter. She was something far greater, the adopted daughter of a human who refused to give her up. And that truth would echo across the stars.